Great news for all fans of the sci-fi blockbuster Edge of Tomorrow. Just in time for the 10th anniversary of the time loop blockbuster, director Doug Liman keeps raising hopes that a second part could still be made. Talking to Empire ahead of the release of his latest film, The Instigators, Liman confirmed that the sequel to Edge of Tomorrow is not yet off the table. "No, we keep talking about it," he said. And "we" refers to Tom Cruise, who played one of the leading roles in Part 1. In fact, Liman and Cruise recently rewatched the first movie together and came to the conclusion that they still loved it. So it'll remain exciting to discover if and when the duo will finally find an opportunity to realize the sequel. According to actress Emily Blunt, the first script already seems to exist. Although Edge of Tomorrow was celebrated by critics and fans, it was not a particularly big hit. With a budget of $178 million, it only made $370 million at the box office. This could have been one reason why the sequel fizzled out over the following years. At last, the reboot of the fantasy classic Highlander, starring Henry Cavill, is making further progress, as filming is set to begin next year. Director Chad Stahelski revealed to Collider that Highlander will start shooting in Scotland in January 2025. Although the plot of the new Highlander movie will pick up on various elements of the previous TV series and films, it will not be a remake of the original movie. Ideally, the reboot is intended to provide the basis for further movies and thus revitalize the franchise. There will be special attention paid to sword fighting. Stahelski emphasized how difficult it is to teach the actors how to handle the weapon convincingly. It therefore requires immense amounts of preparation and dedication to create realistic and captivating action sequences. The leading role will be played by superstar Henry Cavill. According to rumors, he could then meet Michael Fassbender, who is to play the villain. There is no release date yet, but a speedy production might make it possible to release the film in 2026. Finally, the release date for the 5th installment of the popular Shrek franchise has been fixed. As Variety reports, the lovable ogre and his friends will return to the big screen on July 1st, 2026. DreamWorks Animation also announced in a short teaser that the familiar cast led by Mike Myers as Shrek, Eddie Murphy as his faithful companion Donkey, and Cameron Diaz as Princess Fiona will be returning. It's currently unknown whether Antonio Banderas and thus Puss in Boots will also feature in the 5th film. Shrek 5 will be directed by Walt Dorn, who previously worked as a writer on Shrek 2 and Shrek the Third, and also provided the voice to Rumpelstiltskin in Shrek Forever After. There are no updates so far on the supposedly planned Donkey spin-off, which was announced by Eddie Murphy in an interview with Collider a few weeks ago. But this is likely to be a long time coming anyway. 2 new projects from J.R.R. Tolkien's fantasy world await us this year. An anime-style movie, and of course, the 2nd season of The Rings of Power. Several new images have been released for these projects. In the course of the Anime Expo in Los Angeles, a new picture of Hera, the main character in The Lord of the Rings: The War of the Rohirrim, was revealed. She is riding a white horse and seems to be in quite a hurry. According to voice actress Gaia Wise, daughter of Emma Thompson, Hera is a fierce and extremely complex character who would lay down her life for her people. The story of Lord of the Rings: The War of the Rohirrim takes place exactly 260 years before the events surrounding Frodo and the Ring of Power, and focuses on Rohan's battle against the Dunlendings. It is narrated by Éowyn, who we're already familiar with from Peter Jackson's movies. Helm's Deep, known from The Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers, will also play a major role once again. The animated film will be directed by Kenji Kamiyama, renowned for Blade Runner: Black Lotus and Ultraman, for example. The Lord of the Rings: The War of the Rohirrim is scheduled for release this December 13th. Whoever wants to shorten the waiting time until the release of The War of the Rohirrim might be able to enjoy the 2nd season of Amazon's The Ring of Power. In the images published via Empire, we see Galadriel, played by Morfydd Clark, thrusting her sword into a ghostly being. This is somewhat reminiscent of the King of the Dead from The Return of the King. We also get a peek at Adar standing in front of a huge and extremely grumpy-looking troll. And of course, Sauron will play a pivotal role in the 2nd season, this time primarily in his elven form. The 2nd season of The Rings of Power will be released on August 29th via Amazon Prime. Amazon's Spider-Man Noir series is making further progress. A couple of new actors have now been confirmed for the project. One is the Banshees of Inisherin actor Brendan Gleeson, who, according to Variety, is set to take on the role of the villain in Spider-Man Noir. Also joining the cast is Lamorne Norris, known for New Girl and Fargo. Based on initial information, Norris will play the journalist Robbie Robertson, who should already be familiar to Spider-Man fans. He's likely to encounter a has-been private investigator, played by Nicolas Cage, who imposes law and order in 1930s New York. Spider-Man Noir is an alternate version of Spider-Man, and was already seen in Sony's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. However, the series will be about a different version of the character. Filming is set to begin this September. The eagerly awaited series could then be released next year via Amazon Prime Video. 24 years after Ridley Scott's epic Gladiator, we can finally look forward to the eagerly awaited sequel on November 22nd, which is likely to be one of the most visually stunning blockbusters of the year. We have now got a first look. We can see Lucius, played by Paul Mescal, who is fighting off a group of Roman soldiers. They are led by Pedro Pascal's character, Marcus Acacius, a Roman general who was supposedly trained as a junior officer by Maximus in Part 1. Lucius is then taken to Rome by Acacius to fight as a gladiator in the arena. There, he meets his mother Lucilla, played by Connie Nielsen, who played the role of Lucilla in the first part as well. In another image, Lucius and Acacius face off against each other. Is this possibly the showdown? We also get our first glimpse of Denzel Washington as Macrinus. He is described by Ridley Scott as a mastermind who supplies the armies in Europe with weapons and food. He also has his own stable of gladiators. Fred Heckinger and Stranger Things star Joseph Quinn play the rulers of Europe, Emperor Caracalla and Emperor Geta. According to Scott, the twins are extremely sadistic and brutal. And last but not least, here's another highlight. As Vanity Fair announced, the first proper trailer for Gladiator 2 will be released on July 9th. Of course, you'll find it on our channel. The end is near. James Wan's hugely successful horror film series is coming to a close with The Conjuring 4. The release date has now been revealed. According to Variety, The Conjuring 4 Last Rites will be released in theaters on September 5th, 2025. However, the grand finale will not be directed by James Wan, as many had hoped, but by Michael Chaves. He has already been involved in The Conjuring 3 The Devil Made Me Do It, as well as The Nun 2 and The Curse of La Llorona. The screenplay is in the work of David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick, who was already responsible for Part 2 and Part 3 of the film series. According to initial information, filming is set to begin this summer. Although this will be the last reunion with Ed and Lorraine Warren for the time being, who will, of course, once again be played by Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga in Part 4, there is no reason to be sad. Chaves has already announced that there's still enough material for another story with the demon Valak from The Nun. A The Conjuring series under the direction of James Wan has also been announced, which will take place after the events of the movies. Will we be returning to Arrakis sooner than expected? Warner Bros. Continues to fuel speculation about the new blockbuster from Dune director Denis Villeneuve, which is due to be released in December 2026, at the same time as the new Star Wars movie. Currently, there are some signs that the as-yet untitled movie could actually be Dune 3 Messiah. Although Villeneuve has emphasized several times in recent months that he first needs a short break from the Dune franchise, work on the script for Dune 3 is still ongoing. However, it's also conceivable that we will first get to see the already confirmed Nuclear War: A Scenario film, which deals with the aftermath of a potential nuclear war. Either way, Warner Bros. Seems to be very confident in the project. After all, a new Star Wars movie will also be released on the same day. That is, December 18th, 2026. That movie could possibly be Star Wars 10, but nothing has been confirmed so far. And speaking of big blockbusters, The Hollywood Reporter also announced that the sequel to Godzilla Kong will be released in the United States on March 26, 2027. The movie will be directed by Grant Sputor, with a screenplay by Dave Callender. Bad news for all DC fans. Warner Bros. Is discontinuing work on the Arkham Asylum series by Matt Reeves. This was announced by Variety. However, this is not particularly surprising, as the series had been struggling with significant problems in recent years. Arkham Asylum was originally planned under the title Gotham Central as an extension of the Batman universe, and was to deal with the internal operations of the Gotham Police Department. Terrence Winter was initially set to be the writer and executive producer, but left the project in November 2020 due to creative differences. Joe Barton was then hired as a writer, but he too was ultimately dismissed by Warner Bros. In October 2022, director Matt Reeves then commented on the status of the series and announced that Gotham PD, as it was titled at the time, would no longer be made. Instead, they want to focus on a story about the infamous Arkham Asylum prison. Antonio Campos, known for Netflix's Punisher series, was appointed as showrunner. However, he didn't stay long either, as James Gunn and Peter Safran took over the management of DC shortly afterwards and began a major restructuring process. Gunn explained in a social media post in December 2023 that although the show was still in development, it would be set in a different universe, and therefore not in the same world as the Batman. It's still possible, though, that a new project set in Gotham City's infamous asylum will be developed in the future. Until then, Gotham fans should still have plenty to look forward to. After all, we can still expect the Penguin series with Colin Farrell, as well as the Batman 2, which is scheduled to be released in movie theaters on October 2nd, 2026. The highly anticipated Blade Runner series continues to take shape as a number of new actors join the project. As Deadline revealed, House of the Dragon actor Matthew Needham will be joining the cast with Michelle Yeoh and Euphoria star Hunter Schafer. We'll also get to see Caitlin Rose Downey, Daniel Rigby, Johnny Harris, Amy Lennox, and the Woman King actress Sheila Atim in Blade Runner 2099. The series' plot is set 50 years after Blade Runner 2049 and could once again focus on the coexistence of humans and replicants. However, more details are not known yet. Jonathan Van Tulleken, who was recently involved in the Disney Plus series Shogun, will be in charge of directing the first 2 episodes. The series will be produced by Ridley Scott and Michael Green, who also penned the screenplay for Blade Runner 2049. While there is no release date just yet, filming is currently taking place in Prague and Spain. A release date in 2025 therefore seems likely. With A Fistful of Dollars, Sergio Leone directed one of the most popular and important westerns in film history in 1964. 60 years later, the classic is now to be revived in the form of a remake. According to Deadline, Gianni Nunari and Simon Horseman, known for The Departed and Seven, as well as Italian production veteran Enzo Sisti, are behind the remake of A Fistful of Dollars. There are no details yet on a possible cast or director, as the project is still at an early stage of development. What is certain, however, is that the remake is set to make a splash. A Fistful of Dollars, which was already a US remake of Akira Kurosawa's Yojimbo, tells the story of an unmanned gunslinger who puts 2 feuding families against each other in a town. The film not only marked the beginning of the so-called spaghetti western, but also led to 2 sequels, For a Few Dollars More and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which also received cult status. Moreover, lead actor Clint Eastwood celebrated his breakthrough as a film actor with the Dollars trilogy. We're excited to find out what a modern version of the famous spaghetti western will look like, and of course, who will take on the lead role. Will a rather unknown actor be cast, or an experienced star? Who could you imagine as Clint Eastwood's successor? Let us know in the comments. News from Middle-earth. Aragorn actor Viggo Mortensen spoke about a possible return for The Lord of the Rings: The Hunt for Gollum in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, and tied it to one condition. The script had to be convincing, unless he was broke, in which case he would accept practically any job. A return of Aragorn in The Lord of the Rings: The Hunt for Gollum would make sense, of course. After all, in The Lord of the Rings, he is sent on a search for Gollum by Gandalf after he has lost the ring. The Times also report that Gandalf actor Sir Ian McKellen has already been approached for a comeback, though there are no concrete plans. The new Lord of the Rings movie will be directed by Gollum actor Andy Serkis himself, who will once again play the title-given lead role. Peter Jackson will be the producer. The new fantasy adventure is set to be released in 2026, but an exact release date has not been set yet. News from the fashion world. 18 years have passed since we were presented with a genuine cult hit in the form of The Devil Wears Prada. Now a sequel is being planned and the first details of the plot are already available. As Variety reports, The Devil Wears Prada 2 will once again be about Miranda Priestley, played by Meryl Streep, who has come to terms with the end of her career. This development forces her to confront her former assistant Emily, who now holds an executive position at a luxury company. It can therefore be assumed that the cast around Meryl Streep, Anne Hathaway, and Emily Blunt will be back. Anything else would make little sense in the context of a classic sequel. Initial reports suggest that author Aline Brosh McKenna, who wrote the script for Part 1, will once again be responsible for the screenplay. David Frankel could be back as director, although this has not been confirmed at this stage. And we have yet to be given a possible release date as well. The Four Horsemen are back. It's been a long 8 years since we saw the last adventure of Jesse Eisenberg, Woody Harrelson, and Dave Franco on the big screen. Now the wait is over, as Part 3 is set to be released soon. As Screen Rant reports, we'll be able to enjoy Now You See Me 3 as early as next year, on November 14th, 2025 to be precise. The story is currently still being kept under wraps, but spectacular tricks and illusions are likely to play a major role once again. Despite mixed reviews, the first two movies were a complete success. The ending of Now You See Me 2 is also likely to have contributed to fans eagerly awaiting another installment. The regular cast around Jesse Eisenberg and others will of course be seen again. They'll be supported by Barbie actress Ariana Greenblatt, Dungeons & Dragons star Justice Smith, Dominic Sessa from The Holdovers, and Rosamund Pike. Isla Fisher will also be returning in her role. Now You See Me 3 is directed by Ruben Fleischer, known for blockbusters such as Venom, Uncharted, and the Zombieland films.